Somewhere beneath the ground you are standing on right now, there could be a tunnel wide enough to swallow an entire city, and we are not talking about Earth. We are talking about the moon, the same gray, silent, lifeless-looking rock that has hung in our sky for billions of years. For decades, we assumed we already knew everything worth knowing about it. Then, NASA's Artemis program started digging deeper, both literally and scientifically. And what they are uncovering beneath the lunar surface is forcing scientists to rewrite what they thought they understood about our closest neighbor in space. Before we go further, if you love space mysteries like this one, hit like and subscribe, because this channel is about to take you somewhere very few people have ever looked. For over 50 years, the story of the moon seemed simple. Apollo astronauts walked across its dusty plains, planted flags, collected rocks, and came home. Every mission stayed on the surface. Nobody drilled deep, nobody mapped what was hiding underground, and nobody really asked what might be sitting beneath all that gray dust. The moon looked finished, like a story that had already been fully told. But stories change when you get better tools, and that is exactly what happened. In 2011, NASA launched a mission called GRAIL, short for Gravity Recovery and Interior Laboratory. Two small spacecraft, nicknamed Ebb and Flow, flew in tandem around the moon, measuring tiny changes in its gravity field. Every bump, dip, and shift in gravity told scientists something about what was hiding underground, because dense material pulls harder and hollow space pulls weaker. It was like giving the moon an X-ray without ever touching its surface. What they found was strange enough to keep scientists talking for over a decade. The first big shock was something called mascons, short for mass concentrations. These are massive, dense regions buried beneath some of the moon's oldest impact craters, hidden pockets of extra mass that create unusually strong gravity in specific spots. Mascons had actually been discovered back in 1968, but nobody understood why they were there. GRAIL finally solved part of that puzzle, showing that ancient asteroid and comet impacts, striking the moon when its interior was far hotter than it is today, pushed dense mantle material upward into the crust. In other words, some of the biggest collisions in our solar system's history left permanent scars buried deep inside the moon. Scars we can only detect through gravity, not sight. But mascons were just the beginning. As scientists studied the gravity data more closely, they noticed something else entirely, something almost impossible to believe at first. In certain regions, gravity readings dropped instead of rising, suggesting empty space underground instead of solid rock. That is when the idea of lunar lava tubes moved from theory to real possibility. Picture this. Billions of years ago, when the moon was still volcanically active, rivers of molten lava flowed across its surface. As the outer layer of that lava cooled and hardened, the still molten lava underneath kept flowing, carving out long, hollow tunnels beneath the surface, similar to lava tubes found in places like Hawaii or Iceland right here on Earth. Except on the moon, without the same erosion, earthquakes, or weather that reshape structures on our planet, these tunnels may have survived almost perfectly intact for billions of years. And these are not small cracks in the ground. Scientists studying one candidate lava tube near a region called Reconnaissance calculated it could stretch roughly 75 kilometers long and about 4 kilometers wide. That is not a cave. That is closer to an underground highway system stretching further than most countries' entire subway networks, buried completely out of sight beneath the lunar surface. The evidence did not stop with gravity data alone. Around the same time, a Japanese lunar orbiter called Kaguya, along with NASA's own Lunar Reconnaissance orbiter, spotted something odd on the surface. Deep, perfectly circular pits, dropping straight down into darkness, unlike any regular crater caused by an impact. One of the most famous is known as the Marius Hills Hole, roughly 65 meters wide, discovered back in 2009. Scientists believe these pits are skylights, spots where the roof of an underground lava tube collapsed, opening a direct window into whatever lies beneath. Since that first discovery, researchers combing through orbital images from multiple countries, including India's Chandrayaan missions and China's Chang'e program, have identified more than 300 of these mysterious pits scattered across the lunar surface. 300 potential doorways into a hidden underground world we have barely begun to explore. And scientists using radar instruments, like the lunar radar sounder aboard Japan's Selene spacecraft, have detected hollow spaces beneath some of these pits, stretching over 100 meters deep and tens of kilometers long, matching perfectly with the gravity anomalies GRAIL detected years earlier from orbit. Two completely different scientific methods. Gravity mapping from space and radar imaging of the subsurface, pointing to the exact same conclusion. There really do appear to be massive hollow structures hidden beneath the moon's surface, and they have likely been sitting there since long before humans existed. What makes this even more convincing is that no single country made this discovery alone. American, Japanese, Indian, and Chinese missions all contributed pieces of the same puzzle, using completely different spacecraft, instruments, and orbital paths. When independent space agencies, using different technology and working years apart, keep landing on the same conclusion, that is usually a strong sign scientists are looking at something real rather than a data glitch or coincidence. It is rare for planetary science to get this much independent confirmation on a single hidden feature, and that consistency is part of why researchers are taking these underground structures so seriously now. There is another layer to this mystery that makes the timing of Artemis even more important. The lunar South Pole, the exact region Artemis is targeting, sits differently than anywhere Apollo ever visited. Because of the extreme tilt of the moon's axis, certain craters near the South Pole never receive a single ray of sunlight. Not once, not ever. Scientists call these permanently shadowed regions, and inside them, temperatures can drop low enough to trap water ice for billions of years without it ever evaporating. Instruments on earlier orbiters had already hinted that ice might exist there, but nobody could confirm how much, how deep, or how accessible it actually was. That single detail changes everything about why this region matters so much. Water ice is not just a scientific curiosity sitting in a frozen crater. It could become drinking water for future astronauts, oxygen for breathing, and even raw fuel for rockets heading further into deep space. Combine that possibility with underground lava tubes offering natural shelter nearby, and the South Pole starts looking less like a random landing site and more like the most strategically valuable real estate anywhere on the moon. This is where Artemis enters the story in a very real way. Artemis is not just about repeating what Apollo did decades ago. It's about returning to the moon with modern instruments capable of studying exactly these kinds of subsurface mysteries, especially around the lunar South Pole, a region far more geologically complex and far less explored than anywhere Apollo astronauts ever walked. Artemis 2 successfully carried astronauts around the moon and back to Earth in 2026, proving the hardware works and paving the way for far more ambitious missions to come. Future Artemis missions are expected to place astronauts and rovers directly onto the lunar surface near the South Pole, an area scientists believe may hold both permanently shadowed craters filled with ice and potential entrances to these hidden underground lava tube systems. Why does any of this actually matter beyond pure curiosity? Because these underground caverns could completely change how humanity survives on the moon long term. The lunar surface is an extremely hostile place. There is no atmosphere to block deadly cosmic radiation. No protection from micrometeorite impacts constantly peppering the ground, and temperature swings that range from scorching heat during the day to brutally freezing cold at night. But several meters beneath the surface, inside a stable lava tube, none of that applies. The rock overhead naturally blocks radiation. Temperatures stay far more consistent, and the structure is already built, with no need for humans to construct massive shielded habitats from scratch. Some scientists studying this possibility have compared the discovery of stable lunar lava tubes to finding pre-built shelters waiting on an alien world, shelters humanity did not have to build because volcanic activity built them for us billions of years ago. If humanity is serious about establishing a long-term base on the moon, these hidden tunnels could become humanity's first real underground homes beyond Earth, protecting future astronauts in a way surface habitats simply cannot match. There's also a deeper scientific reason to care about what lies beneath the lunar crust. These underground spaces have likely been sealed off from the surface, protected from space weathering, radiation exposure, and constant micrometeorite bombardment for an incredibly long time. That means anything trapped inside, mineral deposits, volcanic glass, frozen materials, or geological layers, could be remarkably well preserved, almost like a time capsule frozen since the era when the moon was still volcanically alive. Reaching that material would not just tell us more about the moon, it could reveal new information about the earliest chapters of our entire solar system, including how Earth itself formed and evolved over billions of years. Naturally, once information like this starts circulating publicly, some corners of the internet take it a step further, hinting that Artemis may have found evidence of something far stranger buried beneath the moon, structures that some claim look artificial rather than natural. It is worth being clear here. NASA has not confirmed anything resembling structures, tunnels, or artifacts built by anyone other than nature itself. What Artemis and its supporting missions have confirmed is something arguably more fascinating, that the moon is not the simple, dead, unchanging rock we once assumed it to be. It has a hidden architecture, shaped by billions of years of volcanic activity and violent impacts, sitting quietly beneath a surface we have been staring at for generations without ever truly seeing what lies underneath. Think about that for a moment. Humans have looked up at the moon every single night throughout all of recorded history. We mapped every visible crater, named every mountain range, and sent astronauts to walk across its dust. Yet this entire hidden world of tunnels, caverns, and buried impact scars stayed completely invisible to us until we developed the technology capable of detecting it. It raises an uncomfortable but exciting question. What else have we been looking at for our entire existence without actually understanding what it truly is? As Artemis missions push forward toward the lunar South Pole in the coming years, scientists are hoping to do more than just collect a few rock samples and take some photographs. They want to physically access these underground spaces, sending rovers or eventually astronauts down through skylight openings to explore what has been sealed away for billions of years. If they succeed, it will not just be one of the greatest achievements in the history of lunar exploration. It could fundamentally reshape our plans for living beyond Earth and possibly rewrite parts of the story of how our entire solar system came to be. The moon has been sitting right above us for our entire existence as a species, close enough to touch with our own eyes every clear night. Yet we are only now beginning to understand what has been hiding beneath its surface all along. Every generation before us looked up and saw the exact same gray face, believing there was nothing left to discover. It took modern gravity mapping, radar sounding, and an entirely new generation of orbiters working together to prove just how wrong that assumption really was. So the next time you look up at the moon, remember that the version you're seeing might only be the outer shell of a much bigger, far more complex world underneath. Somewhere beneath that familiar gray surface, ancient tunnels are still sitting exactly where volcanic rivers of lava carved them out billions of years ago, waiting for the first human footsteps to ever reach them. If this video opened your eyes to something you never knew about our closest neighbor in space, make sure to subscribe, because the deeper humanity digs, the stranger and more incredible the moon becomes.